All right, we're going to find the zeros of a function, page 522 to 526. When we're finding that, that's our y-intercept and our x-intercept. So when this is going way back to when we did slope, which I think is chapter 6 or 7 in our book. It's been a while. But to find the x-intercept, you would make the y equal 0. To find the y-intercept, you would make the x equal to 0. Well, that's what we're doing today. So we're just going to start with number 1. So f of x, which remember equals y. So f of x equals 1/4 x squared. Well, to make that equal to 0, I set it x equals 0. So 1/4 times 0 squared is 0. So to find the y-intercept of each of the function, it's going to be 0, 0. So that's this one, 0, 0. Number 3. Number 3 is f of x equals 3x squared minus 5. Remember, this is y. When I make this 0, even though the book says f of x, just think of it as y. So I'm going to get this and set x equal to 0, minus 5. Well, 3 times 0 squared is 0 minus 5, so then y is equal to negative 5. I made x 0. My point is 0. My y, my y is negative 5. So this is my y-intercept. That means on the y-axis, here's our x and here's our y-axis, that is where it would intercept, is at the 0, negative 5 down here. Okay, number 5. Number 5 is f of x is equal to 3x squared minus 2x plus 1. This is y. All I have to do is make my x is 0. So 3 times 0 squared minus 2 times 0 plus 1. I made x 0. This is my x term. This is my y term. So y is equal to 0 minus 0 plus 1. So that means my y is equal to 1. Number 7. Hold on just a second. Number 7. F of x is equal to x minus 2 squared plus 4. So to do this one, we have to make our x equal 0. So f of x, so our x is 0. We already have that. We're going to go 0 minus 2 squared plus 4. 0 minus 2 is negative 2 squared plus 4. Negative 2 squared is 4 plus 4, so then my y is equal to 8. Number 9. F of x is equal to 2 times x minus 1 squared minus 7. We're finding our y-intercept. That means we're going to make x equal to 0. So f of x equals 2 times 0 minus 1 squared minus 7. Well, 0 minus 1, so 2 times 0 minus 1 is negative 1 squared minus 7. Negative 1 squared is 1. So 2 times 1 minus 7, which is 2 minus 7, which is negative 5. Number 11 states that it wants us to find the zeros of each function algebraically. So, I'm going to erase this. We already have that. Number 11. F of x equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. All this wants us to do is to factor this down. So we're going to find x and x. What times what equals 8? Well, I know 4 and 2. So 4 and 2. So I go up, I get 4x. I go down, I get 2x. This middle term is negative, so that means my biggest number has to be negative. That means this one's positive. This becomes a plus. This is a minus. I get x minus 4 and x plus 2. They want me to find the zeros. When it says that, that means I have to set this equal to 0. And I have to set this one equal to 0. So x equals 4 and x equals negative 2. When you write it, you write your smallest number first and your largest number last. Number 13. Number 13 states f of x is equal to x minus 3 squared. Now, we just have to set it equal to 0. This gets set equal to 0. X minus 3 squared equals 0. I have to find the square root of each side. And I get x minus 3 equals, what's the square root of 0? Well, that's 0. Now I can solve by adding 3 to each side, so it's just x equals 3. Number 15. Number 15 is f of x is equal to negative 2 times x plus 3 squared minus 2. So we're going to take this entire part right here and we're going to set it equal to 0. So negative 2 times x plus 3 squared minus 2 is equal to 0. I'm going to add 2 right here. Oops, I have to write a parenthesis there. So I'm going to add 2 to each side. I have negative 2 times x plus 3 squared equals 2. Divide by negative 2. So now I have x plus 3 squared equals negative 1. Now I have to find the square root. So I get x plus 3 equals the square root of negative 1. So I get here and I get to the negative 1 and I know that that cannot be a real 0. So it's no real solution for number 15. You will have one of those in your homework, but just one. Actually, you don't have one on your homework. It was number 16 and I didn't assign it to you, so you're good. Okay, number 15, we will end with number 19. 19 is f of x equals, actually we're not going to end with this one, we're going to, on this section, f of x equals x squared plus 6x minus 8. So we're going to take this, we can set it, actually, okay, we're going to set it equal to 0. X squared plus 6x minus 8 equals 0. And this can't factor down. I'm going to go ahead and use the quadratic function for this. So we have our quadratic function, again, remember, is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You will have to use the quadratic function because it won't work for the other ones on number 18. You'll have to use it on that. So just so that you know that. So my a is 1, b is 6, and c is negative 8. Okay, you can see all that. Okay, so negative b, so negative 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 8. All over 2 times 1, which is 2. So negative 6 plus or minus, negative 6 squared is 36. 36 minus, now you're going to go 4 times 1, which is 4, times negative 8 is negative 32. So minus 32 all over 2. So this equals negative 6 plus or minus the square root. Keep, change. So now it is 68. Yep, 68 over 2. So it's looking good, but this 68 can be simplified. And when I simplify that, I believe 4 can go into it. So 68 divided by 4 is 17. So negative 6 plus or minus the square root, which is 4 times 17 over 2. This is going to be getting small. I'm going to shift this down so that you can see it. So this now is negative 6 plus or minus 2 square root 17 over 2. Now this 2 right here, because this is can factor out, I can divide both of these by the 2. So this will equal negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3, plus or minus 2 divided by 2 is 1. It goes away, square root 17. So there's your answer right there. Now, on number 26, 28, and 30, you are going to, for each quadratic function, you're going to state the y-intercept, which means make x 0, the zeros, and the vertex, and you're going to graph the function. You do only have to graph number 26 and 28. You do not have to graph 30. I'll know if you watch this lesson or not if you don't graph 30 on your homework. So we'll see. Okay. Number 26. I'm sorry, you're going to do 25. No, let's do, sorry, I'm thinking 29 and 31. 29 is f of x equals x squared minus 5x, x squared minus 5x plus 6. Okay, so the y-intercept, which means I have to make the x 0. So we're going to find the y-intercept. So when I do that, this is 0 squared minus 5 times 0 plus 6. So it's 0 plus 6, so my y-intercept is 0, 6. Now it wants me to state the zeros. Well, to state the zeros, I'm going to erase this part. We're going to factor these down. So this becomes, what times what equals 6? Well, that's 3 and 2. Multiply ups, 3x and 2x. These both have to be negative for it to equal -5. So now I have x minus 3 and x minus 2. To state the 0, you have to set it equal to 0. So x minus 3 equals 0 and x minus 2 equals 0. So x equals 3 and x equals 2. So my zeros are 2 and 3. Your littlest or your least number first. Now it wants us to state the vertex. Well, then that means we have to put it in the vertex form. So that means we're going to go x squared minus 5x. We're going to put the plus 6 over here. Put that line there. So half of 5 is 2.5. And we can do it this way. And 2.5 squared is 6.25. So plus 6.25. So if I added that here, I have to subtract it here. So now I have x squared. Half of this is minus, hold on here. This is the part where we have to make the vertex form. Sorry, x minus 2.5 squared. And then 6 minus 6.25 is minus 0.25. So our vertex is the opposite of this, so it's 2.5, and it is this, negative 0.25. Okay, 31, last one. Number 31 is f of x equals 4x squared minus 12x plus 9. Okay, first thing we have to do, y-intercept, which means make the x 0. So if this is 0, minus 0 plus 9, that means my y-intercept is 0, 9. Now it wants me to break it down and graph it. Okay, well, I can't divide this out, but I can break this down as 2x and 2x and see if this works. What times what equals 9, which is 3 and 3. Multiply that up, it's 6x and 6x. Both of these signs can be negative to get it to equal a negative. So now I have 2x minus 3 and 2x minus 3 to get my zeros. Well, this is kind of awesome because it's already in a square root kind of form. So we can talk about that in just a second. So we can set them both equal to 0. So this is squared, actually. So 2x minus 3 equals 0. Since it's twice, I'm going to add 3. So it's 2x equals 3. Divide by 2. So x equals 3 over 2. So now I have my zeros. That's the zeros. They're the same. So it's 3 over 2 or 1.5. Now I have to complete the square, which it is already complete because it is a perfect squared one. So to complete the square, our vertex is this already, so it's 1.50 or 3 over 2, 0. All right, that is it. So remember, you only have to graph number 26 and 28. You do not have to graph 30. So if you have any questions, you can email me or either call. Have a great day.